Hi everybody, this is Taufik bringing you Chapter 13 of my 4 Kings 100% Growth LTC. Chapter 13 is the best clear on Lionel route, with most of our units putting in work to either help with the main clear or the side objectives. The clear is basically the same as the old run, though it has been cleaned up to have less unnecessary rigging. The clear involves heavy use of rescue dropping, with the squares just barely working out to let us get everything done in 5 turns. We promote 5 units here: Colt, Zoe, Marcy, Victor, and Terry, and give Vin a hero crest for later. Zoe caps out her luck with goddess icons to maximize her avoid, making her a less appealing target for enemies, and Terry takes a body ring so that he can carry Victor. This is the map Lionel was trained to be swords for, so he could use the rune sword. Marcy takes the bowbreaker to suppress the hit rate of the enemy archers. The main sideshow in this map is visiting the Magic Sword Armory at the very top of the map. Colt's promoted class lets him use bows, and in this case, we are going to have him use the short bow to kill a couple of enemies. Regis spends his player phase actions in this map spamming the barrier staff, and on turn 1 we have him barrier Victor to improve his resistance for later. Lionel and Marcy share a pure water, since both of them will be taking some hits from mages, and Marcy in particular is going to face a lot of combat this chapter, so any improvements to her bulk translate to significantly less rigging. With Zoe's capped bulk and uh, Colt's Sword Reaver, the Sword Cavaliers near them will prefer to dogpile onto Lionel, and with the Rune Sword, he can tank them pretty well. In the old run, this turn 1 involved an extreme hell rig. You might have noticed off to the left, there are a bunch of green units. One of them is a recruitable hero, Harriet. She has okay bases with a PRF Ladyblade that does effective damage to axe users. We need to get Regis up to her to recruit her. Sadly, Chapter 13 is the last time that 6-move pure combat units will see significant use in Lionel route, so she doesn't do much for us this playthrough. Colt and Zoe will escort Lionel to the throne. They both promoted to have 8 move, and in Zoe's case to unlock combat capabilities. Circling back to the subject of the armory, this is the only place in the game where we can buy wind swords and rune swords, and it of course also sells light brands. Light brands are D rank, and as such anybody with access to swords will be able to use them. Wind swords are weaker but more accurate and are C rank, meaning the likes of promoted Marcy and Locritus can't use them. Rune swords are B rank, and hence only Lionel, Zack, and Sean will really get any mileage out of them this run. Getting to the armory in time requires intense rescue drop action to squeeze out every square we can. On turn 1, we picked up a win with Zack and Victor with Terry. Suddenly Marcy is just 1 point of speed off from being able to double that um, Emerald Knight. In the old run, I kind of overrigged turn 1 enemy phase to have the NPCs avoid getting hit, but that actually wasn't necessary. On turn 2, Zack hands Vin to Cindy before he gets a Pure Water use in. This Pure Water use lets him face tank a bolting attack later in this clear. Terry clears Marcy's way and hands Victor to her so that she can drop Victor in position for next turn. Since Zack is one square off from where Colt can pick him up, Max steps in to rescue him and pull him up by a square. This way Colt can take him, and then Zoe can take drop him forward. We've now set up the infantry units for the rescue chain that we're going to do next turn. This is a pretty good map for Sally experience-wise. She gets to kill 3 high-leveled enemies and consequently gets 3 level ups by the end of it. We can afford to feed all this EXP to Sally because, as you'll see, the rest of Lionel route is kind of weird, and in general most of our units become irrelevant as soon as we get to the next Lionel route map. Victor does need to dodge a bit to survive this enemy phase. An advantage to the green subordinate units getting damaged is that they don't charge forward with Harriet and the Archer, and this means it'll be easier to feed a kill to Sally later on. Colt and Zoe rescue drop Lionel forward, and now Lionel is in position to simply walk to the throne and seize on turn 5. Now it's time for a long rescue chain. Cindy hands Vin to Zack, and unpromoted Vin has 9 constitution, while Zack has 10 con. Zack then hands Vin off to Victor. He couldn't directly hand him off to Marcy because he would be 1 square short. And Victor then kills this Cavalier. We don't want to have Victor drop Vin because that would actually leave him 1 square shot. So we're instead going to have Marcy take drop Vin an extra square forward. Something you might have noticed earlier is that Terry's movement on the water was pretty good. This is because this hack lets Berserkers move across these water tiles for only 1 movement cost. You might have noticed that Marcy wasn't helping with the main clear, even though she obviously is going to have the best combat stats of our 8-move units at this point. That's because she needs to recruit a unit who will show up in the bottom left on turn 5. Harriet needs to be recruited by having Regis talk to her. Lionel could technically recruit both of these units by talking to them, but obviously for an LTC we want him to be focusing on getting to the throne at ASAP so he can seize. You'll notice that even with 100% growths and all those level ups that she got, Zoe has some pretty shaky hit with the light brand with weapon triangle disadvantage. This is one of the major reasons to want to explicitly go and buy wind zones. It lets units like her control the weapon triangle against enemy mages. On turn 4, Vin walks up and promotes. We couldn't promote him at the start of the map because then Zack wouldn't have been able to carry him. And if we gave Zack the second body ring, then Max would not have been able to rescue him. The reason Vin wants to promote here is so that he gets 6 movement for next turn and then can barely reach the armory. His next position when handing win off to Victor thankfully lets him also nick the secret book for us before we have Colt pick the Sage off to keep him from being a nuisance in the future. And Zoe has just enough skill that she can get a 1% crit on that sniper to delete him. The villages in this chapter all have valuable side objectives. There's a Night Crest, which we definitely want for the next chapter to promote Bradley. There's a Silent Staff, which we will put to use to strategically put some mages on the enemy side out of commission, and also to help train one of our future units. And there's a Wind Sword, which is optional, but it turns out that in the process of getting wind to the Magic Sword Armory, Victor is in range to visit the village with it, so, it saves us a little bit of money. This is a somewhat nasty enemy phase Marcy has to go through, since she needed to end her turn there, or maybe one square to the right, so that she could clear out that nest of enemies over there. They're all stationary and have 1 to 2 range, so we need to get right up in their face to make sure that the path is clear for her to fly down south next turn. Unfortunately, Marcy ends up breaking this light brand. It's possible there were some places where having a low-use light brand would have been helpful, but to get her to not break this light brand, we'd probably have to do something weird with managing the weapon uses or rigging crit. Boss of this chapter has an Eclipse Tome, which is why his hit rates on Lionel and Zoe, who are both holding light brands, is so bad. On turn 5, Zoe unlocks the door to ensure that Lionel and Colt can actually get to the throne. And Patty spawns in. Patty is a level 9 Pegasus Knight who comes with bases identical to Sabaki from Fates, with her PRF Shield Lance granting +5 defense and the Barricade skill. It also does 4x effective damage to Armor Knights. For those unaware, Barricade reduces the damage taken from follow-up or brave attacks by 50%, and there's at least one map where we will put it to use for its skill. Patty's combat is extremely meh, but we want to feed her a level ASAP so that she can promote by chapter 17, and her flight will make her useful in chapter 21 as well. We do not need this many units to drop her forward. I just did this giant infantry rescue chain because I could, more than anything else. And the one Armor Knight Marcy left alive is convenient fodder to feed to Patty. Tax EXP doesn't really matter, but why not optimize it? And Colt cleanly one-rounds the boss, quadding him with the short bow, and gets another level up, which I'm pretty sure is his final level up in this run. And we get a Fortify Staff. That'll be useful for grinding EXP on a unit that joins later, though I don't think using it is strictly necessary. We buy some magic swords for future usage, and that is chapter 13 in 5 turns. I'll see you next time.